Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. Ron Luce. I'm joined by a very familiar face again, ladies and gentlemen. And I say a very familiar face again because this is 3 straight shows that we've done in a row. And we're talking about 4 straight series victories in a row. And we're talking about 3 really straight good days of the Franimal. A lot of things in a row, a lot of consecutive things we're talking about here. Another series win for the Cubbies today. As mentioned, I'm Ron Luce. I'm joined by the one and the only Mr. Cheeseman, Joey Ricotta himself. Sir, Cubs won another ball game. How you doing today?
Doing good, Ron. Cubs won another ball game. Doing good. You said the Franimal. They won another series. It's always awesome when they win series. I love your name there. 4 in a row in your headline names here and on this live stream. So, dude, I mean, I was getting a haircut watching this game while I was getting a haircut. Yeah, I know. You could probably guess where I went to get my haircut. Good. Whatever. Who cares? Who cares where I get my haircut, right?
You look sharp. You look sharp, sir.
Well, thank you, Ron. You got to look presentable when you get on these things because I don't want somebody to be like, that dude's just such a bum. I was feeling like I was getting to bum territory, though. My beard was like really out of whack, and I'm like, whoa! My whiskers are going over my teeth now, so I need to take care of that. But yeah, man, the Cubs won another ball game. The Yan Gomes revenge game in essence. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun today.
Hell yeah, it was. It was a good time. And in case this is a game where like normally we jump on these shows and we start talking about like just things that happened without really prefacing the score. Like today's legitimately a day that like people probably didn't see the ball game. Game started at 12:05 on a Wednesday afternoon. Like a lot of people have to work. Maybe you're checking score updates on your phone, but you don't really get to see the highlights right away. What have you, whatever it is. So we'll just talk really high level and really quickly through them here because as we mentioned, Cubs win 3-2. The Nationals did strike first in the bottom of the second. Just a natural ground ball out of Cesar Hernandez. It scored Kyber Ruiz, what have you, because then PJ Higgins with Rafael Ortega on base hits a moonshot. It was his 6th of the season. That made it 2-1. And then the absolute debacle that was in the bottom of the 6th where the Nationals challenged safe at both bags on a double play turn. They upheld the call at second. They reversed the call at first, which was the right call. Run scores for the Nationals. They get 1. Ultimately, they get, Cubs find their way out of it majestically. And then, as you mentioned, a Fran Reyes ground rule double leads to a Yan Gomes clutch base hit the other way. The big Franimal round in the bases scores from second. And the Cubs ultimately take this one 3-2. Your winning pitcher is Ullman. Your losing pitcher, McGee. And Wick comes through with his 8th save of the season. Looked really strong in the 9th inning there. But a guy that we didn't mention there, right? We talked about pretty much the 3 relievers that relieved, or 2 of the 3 relievers that relieved Drew Smiley, who had a good start today as well. And maybe we'll just start overall with the pitching here, Joey. Smiley, really good outing. Again, following up on that Field of Dreams outing that he had just over a week ago. Looks really strong. Ultimately gets a no decision in this one. Should have gotten a win, but I digress. Ullman comes in. Whatever, he figures it out. Hasn't looked the greatest in this series, but he's making it work. But Steven Brault comes in with 2 scoreless innings in the 7th and 8th, gets the Cubs there, takes care of business, and ultimately Wick able to shut the door in the 9th. I mean, he might not even be your guy, Joey. We were talking about this beforehand, but we like to mess with you that Steven Brault is like unofficially your guy. But just overall, Joey, today, I think really outside of the little bit of a debacle, and in fairness to Ullman, the run technically was credited to Smiley. So, those were Smiley's base runners, not Ullman's. Nonetheless, overall, very solid pitching performance today from the Cubs as a whole. Tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, I'll claim him. I'll claim Steven Brault. That'll be my guy. I have no problems with that because he's pitched in 6 ball games now without allowing an earned run. Mm-hmm. Welcome back, first of all, for him to come back off of COVID and the CSW rate, man. Like he had like a 44% CSW rate for those of you on what that's called, plus swing strike rate. So that's pretty damn good. 44%. That's pretty damn good. I know it's a smaller sample when you're not pitching as many innings or throwing as many pitches, but yeah, he was definitely solid out of the bullpen. And Smiley was good again. He's been really, really strong. I mean, I was looking at his pitch mix today. 52% sinkers, 47% curveballs, and only one cutter. Usually, he throws like the sinker, he throws the sinker, the curveball, and the cutter. He kind of diversifies it. If you look at like a season-long numbers of pitch mix and what he uses, one cutter today. Like he was very heavy on the sinker and the curveball. He didn't need much more than that. So he was definitely locked in for the most part. Obviously, he couldn't work past the sixth inning or couldn't finish off the sixth inning there, but still strong outing. Ullman scares me, man. I know he's real young. He hasn't pitched much, but I still, when he enters the ball game, I get a little nervous when he enters the ball game. Roe Wick, good to see him bounce back. Like he's not the prettiest. But that big ugly SOB. He got it done today. And look, he's on a decent little run right now, right? He's outside of last night. He's on a decent little run of pitching well. So I was calling him dumpster juice just like a month ago. And now he's kind of figured it out.
Dumpster juice. Rowan Dumpster Juice Wick. No, I feel you that honestly, like he isn't the prettiest, right? Like most closers are like heavy strikeout guys, right? Like you think of the great closers of all time, you think of like Francisco Rodriguez and Mariano Rivera and the guys that had the shit that'll strike you out, right? Like Rowan Wick's got the stuff, but most of the time his innings are like ground ball to third base, ground ball to second base, ground ball to shortstop. Like, and that's okay. Get outs. I don't give a fuck how you get them. As long as you're getting the outs, get the outs. And I think that's what was nice. Like you said, great to see him bounce back after really his first rough outing in quite some time. Brault looked great coming off the IL with COVID, like you had mentioned, 2 scoreless innings. I think he only gave up. Let me double check the box score. Yeah, only 1 hit. Didn't walk. Cubs did not walk a single batter today as a pitching staff.
Love that.
That's cool and tough. And only 6 strikeouts as a pitching staff today, too. 4 coming from Smiley and the other 2 coming from Brault as he gets his first hold of the season. And quickly turning to a couple of the comments here. First off, hello, Jeremiah. Good to see you again, sir. He says, it's weird having a Wednesday game, And then he also said, Roman Wick is beautiful. What are you talking about? He is kind of a handsome bastard. I'm not going to lie. But again, I agree. Like it's weird being here at 3:49 to be exact as we record this, like with you, Joey, on a Wednesday, right? Because we're used to Wednesday night games in Chicago, where this is just what we've become accustomed to. So, you wonder how much too that plays in with the players today, but it seemed to not affect the pitching staff. They looked really good today. They came out, they got the job done. Short rest. It is a getaway day in theory. They would have had an off day if not for the rain out on, I think it was June 8th. Against the Baltimore Orioles. They're making that game up tomorrow. We'll be back with you after that show, or after that game with a show as well. But yeah, man, I'm right there with just good pitching today. You like to see Smiley come back again, 5 1/3, 4 hits, 2 runs, no walks, 4 Ks. I mean, that plays every single time. But Joey, we'll talk about PJ Higgins and Yan Gomes in a second.
Hit me with it.
But you know what time it is? It's time to talk about the Franimal. This dude's so much fun. I'm falling in love with him as a fan of the baseball player because he's this big goofy dude, right? You see him in the dugout joking around with everybody, cracks that big shit ass grin that he's got. But the dude just hits. He's hitting. He's getting back. He's not trying to pull the ball. He's not trying to kill the baseball anymore. He's not striking out. He's taking what the pitchers are giving him and turning it into base hits and extra base hits at that. His 2 doubles today brings him up to 6 extra base hits in 7 games as a member of the Chicago Cubs. In only 29 ABs, he's almost hitting 400. He has been so good in this change of scenery role now with the Cubs. He's bringing something to the Cubs that they didn't have in the DH position this season, right? Obviously, the old DHs of the AL of old are kind of dead and gone, but like you still like having a guy that you can plant there more days than not. And he's been able to do that so far, right? They have the athleticism at all the positions. They always had a struggle with giving Willie a day off. So Willie DH'd a lot because of that. Now you got a guy that actually truly can DH because he's an elite bat when he's right, and he seems to, at least for now, be right. Like, he's just getting the job done today. 2 doubles, the only player for the Cubs with multiple hits, he scores the game-winning run. I mean, the Franimal, Joey, when the Franimal eats, it's a Fran meal, and you love to see it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it gets me hyped up. When he got that second double, I was getting my hair cut, like I said, and I kind of almost got out of my chair, and I got
Shaved
hyped
a bunch
up.
of the hair out of your head.
You might have to check me out here. I'm not sure if there's a little piece missing or not, but she didn't know. She knew I was getting a little excited. I don't know if she could feel my heart rate, while she was cutting. But yeah, I got a little excited. I'm like, hold on a second. She's like, oh, if you need me to take a break, I'm like, no, we're good, we're good. I kind of calm myself down a little bit. But the Franimal is fun. The Franimal, when he's running around third base to score that run, that gives me life. Just knowing that he already hit 2 doubles and then he's scoring the run, like him chugging around the bases. I don't know what gets better than that. Maybe Dan Vogelbach, like when you see the clip on Twitter, but this dude actually looks like an athlete compared to Dan Vogelbach, even though he's a big, giant, mammoth Goliath human being. Yeah, he's fun. He's hitting. What is his average? Close to 230 now, too, for the season long.
229 now, 229.
And that says something because coming in here when the Cubs claimed him, his average was very, very poor. I'd have to go back and look and see exactly what it was with Cleveland this season. But he's doing something different. He's changed his approach. He's simplified things, it seems like. And he still has the strength to be able to get those extra base hits, like you mentioned, and hit those home runs, opposite field home runs. He's just getting it done. He is such a fun player to watch. If we get his jersey, Ron, I don't think I want a Reyes jersey. I think I want a Franimal jersey. Can we customize that? I need a Franimal customized Cubs jersey.
I love that. You just fired me up now because I love that idea. I think that's absolutely incredible. The Franimal, right? Like, it's got to be the Franimal. It's more fun that way. Quickly here from Jeremiah in the comments. Said that I bet the YouTuber Fuzzy is dying right now, and he follows it up with saying he's a Guardians fan. And I bet there's a lot of Guardians fans out there that are looking at this and like, son of a bitch, where was this when he was in Cleveland, right? Like, where was this guy who hit 30 bombs last year? When they're in a pennant race, right? Like, that's what you want when you're in a pennant race. And sometimes, again, like he even came out and admitted it through the media when they were asking him, right? Sometimes a change of scenery is a real thing. Sometimes you get into a rut wherever you are and you need to switch it up, right? People change jobs all the time. It's the same kind of concept for baseball players. You need a fresh breath of fresh air. Breath fresh of air. If I could ever get a word right today, it'd be great. But going back to your point, Joey, with Cleveland, he was slashing 213, 254, 350 when coming over from the Guardians. In 7 games with the Cubs, he's slashing 367, 367, and 733. Dude hasn't walked yet, but when you're slugging 733, I could give a shit if you're walking, as long as you're getting the hits. It's absolutely incredible, and you love to see it. Other notables, again, today, we mentioned, right, beyond the Franimal, as much as we love him, son of a bitch, now you planted that jersey idea in my head, Joey, and that's going to kill me because I'll be at Wrigley twice this weekend, and beers will be consumed, and it's enough liquid courage to make me do something like that. When it's all said and done here. So we'll see. But going back, continuing with the offense today, right? Obviously, minimal overall offensive output today. Cubs get the job done with 5 hits today as a team. That's okay. Sometimes you're going to have days like that. This is the first time they haven't scored 4 runs since August 7th when I was in attendance, of course. That's the last time that they didn't score at least 4 runs. This offense has still been hot. They still mustered 3 runs today. That was enough to get the job done because the pitching was good enough. But 2 guys that are worth mentioning, obviously. P.J. Higgins coming through with the big 2-run homer today. A fun split I saw on the Marquee Sports Network post-game show today. It was Cole, I want to call him friend of the program, Cole Wright. We've gotten to chat with him a little bit on Twitter. Hopefully he's a guest in the offseason. But him and Placata, Mr. Carlos Pena, on the show today. They were talking about his splits. He has 3 home runs as a first baseman this year, 3 as a catcher, right? So, like, the bat has been consistent no matter where he's playing in the field, and I think that's great. And then, obviously, Cole Wright said it himself, Yan Gomes probably the best second-string catcher in all of baseball, coming through in this revenge game, which for a while there looked like the Corey Abbott revenge game. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But Yan Gomes, PJ Higgins, again, two guys that, again, are truly the catching position. I think it's obviously testament to these guys today, right? Because they were the reason the Cubs got the win today. I mean, they were the two that drove in all 3 runs. But you factor in Wilson Contreras into that, the Cubs' catching position this year has been wickedly consistent with either big hits from guys like Yan Gomes, just hitting in general. PJ Higgins still hitting 283, and Willie having an unreal season that he's had where, I mean, his OPS is still, even with the cold streak that he was on, still at like 851. I mean, the guy is still getting the job done. The catching position gets it done today. They've been getting it done all season. Your thoughts, my friend?
I mean, who would have thought today we were going to get the backup catcher game for the Cubs? You know that.
Who would have thought? Not me.
Look at us.
Hey, look at us.
Yeah, honestly, man, it's really cool. Like it makes me wonder what's going to happen going into next year, because are they going to carry 3 catchers again? I mean, obviously you're going to offer Willie the qualifying offer. Whether he's going to accept it, who knows? We don't know how that's going to play out. But it makes me feel comfortable, or good at least. I don't know if it's like really good or just good enough, that these two together, because you're going to have Yan Gomes and you'll still have Higgins, those two together will be pretty solid, right? And I mean, yeah, Higgins can spell here at first base and whatever, but let's look at Higgins for a second. We don't talk about him enough on this show, I don't think, because he's not one of the pieces that we really look at as like, this is a future piece, but he still came up through the Cubs, and he has an OPS close to 900. You mentioned Wilson Contreras' OPS. PJ Higgins' OPS is close to 900 now. I mean, I know it's in limited action.
884.
884. And what did you say Contreras was, 851 or something like that?
I think he's like 851 right now, yeah.
Which he plays a lot more. So it's not like I'm not – this isn't apples to apples here. But it just goes to show you that in the limited action that PJ Higgins has gotten this season, he's really taken that step forward as a hitter. And it's cool to see. Like, even in a platoon type of role, maybe he can be of use in that sense next year. Or just in a backup role where he's spelling Contreras, or he's spelling Wisdom or Matt Mervis or whoever it is going to be at first base, you know? So little foreshadowing there. But I do think that PJ Higgins and Yan Gomes behind the plate defensively is obviously really good. He's one of the better defensive catchers in the league, really. He's been doing that for a long time. So I really feel good about where this catching core is right now, even without knowing for sure what is going to happen with Contreras. And if they wanted to keep 3 catchers next year and have Higgins as kind of like that multi-use first base catcher, DH type of guy, even if Contreras doesn't come back, maybe they go out there and they get like a cheaper catcher to fill in. And so, you know, yeah, I mean, I know we probably weren't expecting to go down this PJ Higgins route today, because going into it, it's not like you wake up in the morning, you're not like, oh, PJ Higgins, I can't wait. Like this morning, I was thinking the Franimal. That's all I was thinking about, and then he delivered. So then we were excited to talk about it.
The Franimal, yeah, no, absolutely. No, and I think there's something interesting here, and there's a little bit of back and forth going on in our comments, and I love the back and forth in the comments. I think it's like my favorite part of watching you guys jump in on the show here. But an interesting question presented by our friend Lil Yumper, and he says, are you doing Willie a disservice by putting him through all the trade rumors and now possibly ruining his free agency with the qualifying offer? And I think that's an interesting thought here, because while we're on the topic, I mean, we went down the rabbit hole. We might as well go down just a little bit further before we spiral our way back up and keep trucking. But it's a fair question, because personally, I think he's still going to be attractive. I think in today's game, especially if you're a team with a good farm and you draft well, if you see the value in a guy like Wilson Contreras and bringing him in, even if the qualifying offer is a thing, like it's not going to, in my opinion, it's not going to matter. I think they're like, whatever, take the draft pick. We don't give a shit. We know what we're getting with a guy like him, especially with a team like, hypothetically, like a San Diego, right? Team that's going ape shit, spending a bunch of money. They're in win now mode, and they're in win now mode to compete with a team like the Dodgers. I could absolutely still see them saying, yeah, whatever, Cubs, you can have the draft pick. That's fine. We'll take Wilson Contreras off your hands and sign him to a free agent deal. That's not a big deal. Because at the end of the day, sure, you lose a draft pick, but ultimately you're probably looking at, most teams are going to be okay with it. The ones that truly are going to sign a guy like Contreras, who are more win now, want that offensive production from a catcher. And in fairness, I think something that a lot of people haven't figured out yet, or maybe thought of yet, because like the qualifying offer has this like terrible taboo to it. The Cubs currently have a guy on the roster that has accepted the qualifying offer in his tenure, and that was Marcus Stroman. He did that with the New York Mets. Who the hell is to say that Wilson Contreras is not going to take, whatever because isn't it like the average of the top 5 paid players at your position or something like that? Like similar to like the franchise tag in the NFL. I don't know how it exactly works on what the dollar amount. Oh no, it's a set dollar amount for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's like $18 million for 1 year. You don't think Wilson Contreras would take $18 million to stay another year in Chicago if they give it to him? Honestly, if there's any guy in my opinion that's going to do it, it might be Wilson Contreras. You know what I mean? So that's something I think a lot of people don't think about either, because then once you've accepted the qualifying offer or been tagged with it in general, then you are just an outright free agent the next year. That's why the Cubs were able to get Stroman and not have to give anything up for him, because that he had already exercised that qualifying offer once in his career. So if Willie's thinking to the future and he's like, you know what, maybe I come back, have a really good year, and can talk the Cubs into keeping me for like 2 years after, or he comes around and then goes, or I'm going to leave now and you can't stop me, and you guys get nothing in return. Because if they didn't trade him this year, I'm hard-pressed to think they're going to trade him at the deadline next year, right? Like, I'm really hard-pressed to think that. And
depends where they're at, I think, but yeah.
And I think this is where I think agree with Lil Yumper here. He says it's understandable that he could accept it, but again, would he want to go through that bullshit again? If you are on a 1-year contract, they can get rid of you. And I think that's also fair. I truly don't think, I know this is really long-winded and I just went in a really big circle and I apologize, but I think ultimately I don't think the qualifying offer is going to harm Willie at all, because I think if a team truly still wants him, most teams that are going to target a guy like Wilson Contreras right now are competing. They don't give a single fuck about the draft pick, right? Like, they want to win now. The money that they make from the championship win that they could potentially get with a guy like Contreras on your roster is going to severely outweigh the what if draft pick. Because again, I know people are like, but you still need a draft, and that's great. But even in baseball is the one sport where you probably have more busts than hits in the high rounds. Yes, you are absolutely going to have a shot at getting an elite player, right? We see first-round draft picks work out all the time. But we also see guys that are 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, further round draft picks that end up working out. Like, there's no guarantee just because you get a first-round draft pick out of this late in the first round that it's going to happen and work. Like, not everybody hits on a guy like Nico Horner in the back end of a first round like the Cubs did. It's very rare, as a matter of fact. So it's like, I think at the end of the day, do you harm it? Do you hurt his value a little bit? Maybe a little. But even then, even if he did get traded, isn't he just going to accept? Isn't he just going to be qualified again by the team that got him at the deadline potentially? You know what I mean? So like, does it really change? Because even if he's traded or not traded, I don't know if that really makes a big difference. A great question, though, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. So great question, Lil Yumper. I appreciate you dropping that in the comments. I want to hear from you, though, too, Joey, on this matter, because I think it's an interesting question. It really is very interesting question, and I would love to hear your thoughts.
No, I think you made a lot of great points there. I think the teams that are going to be in the market for Contreras, if he does decline the qualifying offer, it's going to be those teams that are really making a push, because you don't really spend on catchers. I think if you're a younger team that's kind of just like growing and not really ready yet.
See the Phillies spending on JT Realmuto.
Yeah, the Phillies, they go for it, though. You know what I mean? Like, they spend a lot of money, and obviously they did so with Schwarber. They did so with Castellanos. I mean,
or even the White Sox with Yasmani Grandal at the time.
Yeah, the Sox too. Yeah, the Sox.
Same idea.
Excellent point there. I think in Grandal, man, he's really fallen off. I think he might be getting a little bit better back in the swing of things maybe lately, but neither here nor there. Catchers, the market for Contreras, I think, is still going to be strong. I do think that, some teams like that really scout and draft well and develop well and rely on their system, they will not want to do that. But then there are those teams that they just don't care. Like they feel well enough about where they are in their farm system and where they are in their competing years that they're just not going to care. And so, yeah, as far as like Wilson, is he going to accept it or not? I don't know. I know he wants to be in Chicago. I know that's where he really wants to be. He wants an extension. That's what he wants. He doesn't want to be put through this turmoil again of like rumors at the trade deadline. Who's to say if the Cubs aren't competing, in July next year or whatever, that sparks up again, right? It could very well spark up again. And at that point, he's probably going to get traded because you haven't reached an extension and you're on that last qualifying. You're like, yeah, it's probably bound to happen because it didn't happen this year. And the Cubs might even take less than, what they were asking for, obviously, this year. He's another year older, et cetera, et cetera. It's pretty much writing on the wall. Ideally, I would like them to get an extension done with him this offseason because then you don't have to worry about this crap. And then, you lock him in for, I'd say, like a 4-year deal. I think a 4-year deal is kind of a sweet spot there. He won't be too old at the time. He should be still performing even on year 4 of that deal. Is the defense on the decline, or is defense not really been that great as far as pitch framing and all that goes, game calling? There's ways around this now, especially with the pitch comm, and you can call pitches from the dugout. You can kind of sequence it that way if you really wanted to, if you don't trust him to call a game. You know what I mean? Like there are ways around this, and then you can use them at first base too. We've seen that in the past. I mean, we've seen him DH a lot.
Yeah.
There's ways around this. I ideally would want him just to get like a little extension. Jed, I don't know what he's thinking. I have no idea now that you didn't trade him. He did mention how he's more valuable to the team than he is whatever they were going to get in the trade market. So if that's the case, you got to believe that he might be trying to hang on to him, even though they've already there's reports out there that they're not going to. We don't know. A lot can change. A lot can change between now and November or now and whenever. So I just want to see them get it done. But I understand if they're not going to, especially like I said, Ron, because look at the way the landscape is right now with the team and the catchers. You just had a catcher leapfrog Miguel Amaya when Miguel Amaya was the only catcher that was being talked about in Ballesteros, who I know he's a ways away, but Miguel Amaya is not far off. And you would like a guy like Contreras to groom him to be a big leaguer, though, more than anything. But can Yan Gomes do that? Like, Yan Gomes is a veteran. He could probably do that too. So, I mean, it's really up to Jed, and it's really up to what their ideal plan is. A lot of teams don't build around catchers now. That's just not how they do it. They build from ground up with position players, and then they kind of either go out and sign that catcher like the White Sox tried to do, and the Phillies did as well. Obviously, I think there was a trade initially and then an extension, but still, they went out and acquired it. It wasn't like a homegrown guy. A lot of these teams, you're seeing the Adley Rushmans, you're seeing the Melendezes, and the Kyra Ruiz, he was even traded for. So you can get a catcher, and it's not to devalue Wilson at all. I just think it can be done. It doesn't have to be the way that you build your team. And I hate to say that because I love what Wilson Contreras does. He's tough as shit. He's a leader on this team, and he's a ball player, man. That's a guy you root for. That's a guy I love to watch play every day.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think at the end of the day, what we've learned from Lily Umper's question here and kind of how we digested this is it is truly a loaded question. It is a loaded question because there are so many different outcomes that can happen from this. And that is going to be the biggest storyline going into the offseason is what are the Cubs going to do with Wilson Contreras? And I think that'll be a very intriguing storyline to follow. It'll be one that we will cover here in length at Cubs on Tap. And hopefully everybody that's listening will kind of join along in that too, because again, it is going to be very fascinating to see. But Joey, before we move on, I want to quickly just turn it over to you. Any final thoughts on today's game before we look ahead to tomorrow?
It's just nice to win. It's nice to win. You get another series win, 4 in a row. Corey Abbott obviously was looking pretty good there for a while, but then, you had a guy who's seen him a lot in PJ Higgins, who was able to capitalize and take a hanger out of the yard. So the Franimal, those are my final thoughts. Stephen Brault, the legendary Broadway singer, is back. Cubs get a win, Ron. It's a good day.
I agree with you there. Well said, my friend. And one quick fun question for you, as presented by Jeremiah here in the comments. He says, who has the better beard, Hayward or Reyes?
Ooh. You know
I
what?
have my answer, and I want to listen to your answer first, but I have my answer.
It's been a while since I've seen Hayward, so now I'm like, what the hell does his beard look like again? And we've been seeing him for years. I'll say Hayward.
I will also say Hayward. I ironically actually have a Hayward jersey on right now. I think it's funny that question came up. And for anybody that doesn't believe me, here you go. If you're watching on the
Nice.
Bought this like the year he signed. I think this was a 2016 acquisition. This one's old. This one's got stains on it that I don't know how I got them type thing. Like this is an abused jersey.
That's the one you wear at home only now.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, if I was going to a game and knew I was going to get shit spilled on me, I would probably be willing to wear this. But I mean, it's neither here nor there. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Reyes, great beard. Love that beard. Absolutely fantastic. I just wish he would fade it a little more. And okay, this is coming from somebody that takes pride in like self-grooming my beard, but like because I fade my beard, obviously nobody can see it because I'm due for a haircut, but I fade my beard into my haircut because I kind of go short on the sides. Like Fran Mills is like buzz beard, and I'm like, oh, just a little blending would look really good, brother, just a little bit. But no, two elite beards nonetheless. I think Jay Hay gets the slight nod over it though. So that's good fun.
It's funny that we're on this topic today when I was just talking about my whiskers pouring over into my teeth. And now we're talking about the Franimals beard compared to Jay Hay's beard. I love it. This
beard talk.
Yeah, this is awesome talk today. When I was learning tips about grooming there while I was getting my haircut, now I'm hearing Ron Luce's grooming tips. So this is incredible content today, Ron.
Yeah, who knew we'd be talking about beards? Yeah, that's like the fun thought that everybody always asks me. They're like, who grooms your beard? I'm like, I do. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, I don't let anybody touch my shit. Like, I got this. I was like, I got a good barber, Mr. Mario and Ricky here in the south suburbs of Chicago. Good old Italian men. They cut my hair. And I mean, like, when I say like good old Italian men, Ricardo, like you would be proud because like Mario is from the motherland. Like nice. When he gets angry, he starts swearing in vowels. Like it's great. It's absolutely amazing. I love it. It's the best. They've been cutting my hair for like 10 years. They take care of the top. I take care of this. That's just how it goes. But nonetheless, my friend, little beard talk to end the day, because, hey, beards are cool and tough. 4 series in a row is also cool and tough. And I think that's a good way to sum up that thought of this national series. I don't think we have to see the Nats anymore this season. Good riddance because Lane Thomas and some of those other guys were starting to piss me off. I'm happy we don't have to see them anymore. But one team we do have to see for one final game is tomorrow with the Baltimore Orioles as the Cubs will travel to Baltimore, Maryland. It works out perfectly. Not a big travel day for them by any means. On Thursday, August 18th. This is a makeup game from June 8th that was rained out in Baltimore. This will take place at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. You know it in Baltimore, Maryland. Go get some crab cakes if you're out that way because I could go for some crab cakes with some Old Bay on them right now. It is a 2:05 start, a little bit of a different time that Cubs fans are used to. This one will be able to be found in the Chicago market on 670 The Score and Marquee Sports Network. And if you just happen to be out in the Baltimore area, 98 Rock FM HD2, 97.9 WBAL News Radio. 2 different stations, you can find it there, and then MASN. They're on MASN 1, unlike the Nationals who always get MASN 2, as we learned. But the Orioles will be on the local network there. It will be Adrian Sampson on the bump, the righty, 0-3 on the season with a 3.88 ERA. It'd be nice to get him a first win, but he's pitching for the Cubs. It's technically TBD for the Orioles, but you and I did some Twitter, well, more you. I'm not going to take any credit for this. You did Twitter research, my friend, and it is supposed to be Spencer Watkins, correct? Is who they're going against, and he's a righty. I actually believe he's on my fantasy team. I'm not going to tell too many people that, but he is on my fantasy team. He was really good against the Cubs last time we pitched against them. So, you see that and you're like, son of a bitch. But so he's on the bump tomorrow for the Orioles. Orioles, really good team. I think a lot of people kind of lost sight, unless you're an AL East fan, that like they are right on the edge of the AL wildcard right now. They've had one of the best kind of, I don't want to call it comebacks, but just kind of resurgences this season where like they kind of started cold and they started so cold that like you thought they were out of it, especially with how good like the Yankees and the Rays and the Jays are, who are all in a playoff position at the moment. The Orioles are right there now, man. They're a good baseball team that we saw it the first time around. They gave the Cubs fits the first time the first real 2 times that we saw them. But holy shit, man, like it was tough. So I want to hear your thoughts. What the hell do the Cubs have to do to get a win tomorrow, man, against this? Again, it's weird saying good and Baltimore Orioles in the same sentence. But we got to respect it now because they did it the right way and these guys are starting to hit.
Good young team, by many people's calculation, they have the top farm system in baseball. It's scary. Still the top farm system in baseball when, what was it, number 1 prospect or top
Adley
3,
Rutschman.
Adley Rutschman gets the call, like now you've got these guys coming through the farm system. They've still got Colton Cowser. They've got Grayson Rodriguez. DL Hall just got called up recently. They've got I'm missing somebody too. Kierstead, he's down the way a little bit.
This team is so weird too.
Sorry.
Just while you're going down, I'm just saying, just while you're going down list of names, right? Like they have a lot of good prospects. They have some of these guys that have come up. Like this is a team that's still competing with trading Trey Mancini. Like
right.
That's the crazy part here. So continue.
And a guy that meant so much to Baltimore and,
yes,
his story and everything we know about the cancer and all that and his triumphant return. And, just he's been good, though. Like he's legitimately a good player when he's on the field. And, like you said, they've been able to trade him and still remain competitive. What are they, 6 games over 500 at this point? They're still battling. The Yankees are kind of skidding right now. They've lost 3 straight. I don't even know what their record in their last 15 is. That might not be so hot either. But they're still in it, and this is going to be a tough game. I mean, their bullpen is maybe the most underrated aspect of this team. And we've talked about this the last time we did a show and the last time the Cubs played the Orioles. Their bullpen is legit. Like they got dudes in that bullpen and they will lock you down. So even if it's Spencer Watkins pitching tomorrow, who is not bad, he's serviceable. He's still kind of, trying to get it together here in the big leagues, but he's not bad. He's kind of like an Adrian Sampson type. Like that's kind of a perfect matchup if that's going to be the case. And Sampson's surprising that he doesn't even have a win yet to this point because he's been good. So that's really surprising. Not that win-loss record matters for starting pitchers, but yeah, man, you're going to have to get to Spencer Watkins, I think, because that bullpen can be real trouble when you get later in that game against the Orioles. So that's going to be my one key point, I think. It's normally the case, but because the Cubs do tend to jump on guys early and then they kind of stop scoring or they let the other team get back into the game. But you really need to score early against this team because you don't know who they're going to toss out. I'm not sure. I haven't been looking close enough to see who's going to be available tomorrow for the Orioles or anything, but they got a lot of arms, so that's definitely scary.
Yeah, and Jeremiah quotes in the comments as well. I'm not going to bring it up on the screen, but he said they also traded their closer, which I think a lot of people forget too. Like they moved 2 massive pieces on that team, and they're still competing. So much so. Here's the standings for anybody. Again, because as NL fans here for the Cubs, right? I don't really pay attention to the AL standings a terrible amount unless I'm just standing watching and just oh, this is interesting. So here's where the standings set right now in the AL. It's very interesting. The Yankees still firmly in number 1 in the AL East. They're currently 72-45. They are 2-8 in their last 10, though, as you mentioned. Very, very, very much worth noting there. But you have Seattle in the top wild card spot at 64-54. They're a game and a half up. Tampa is a game up in the second spot. Toronto is in that last spot, and a half a game back are the Baltimore Orioles. They are a half game out of the American League wild card final position. Just think, that's how good the AL East is this year. You have 4 teams within a half game of the wild card.
And they traded for prospects. This team's going to be fucking scary, Ron, in the AL East. They don't have the money. They don't have the money that the Yankees or anybody has, but they could have a really solid window here if they do this thing the right way.
And that's the crazy thing, right? If you're in the AL East right now, if I'm Boston, I'm pissed. Because all 4 of the teams you're going to see for, how many games a year they play? 9, I think it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
you're more than that, probably. I think it's actually closer to like 13 or 14 even. But even then, like, you have to see all these teams. You got to see the Orioles, the Rays, the Blue Jays, and the Yankees. That sucks. Like, that makes me happy that the Cubs are in the NL Central. Because truthfully, going into next season, if this seems remotely competitive, it's the Cardinals and the Brewers. They're the only 2 teams that are above the Cubs. In my opinion, like, even now, that's how I look at it.
That's why there's no reason they can't compete next year. There's no reason they can't compete next year, and they should be spending money in the offseason. And we've already said that, but the time is now. The time is now. It starts now. It will continue next year, but the time to start is now. Look at the Braves. We were on the live stream. I don't remember if it was last night or the night before, because we've been doing shows together pretty regularly, obviously. Michael Harris signed an extension with the Atlanta Braves.
That was
young rookie. There was talks about it when he was on a hot streak. I'm like, is it him or is it Morel? Who's been better? But the Braves continue to do this. The Braves sign guys to these extensions early. They hit them early. The Cubs need to start doing some of that too. They need to start doing some of that. Nico Horner this offseason, I would love that. That's maybe the perfect time to start. Like he could be the perfect piece to start with. Get an extension done. You grab an extra couple years out of that free agency, out of his control, extend it by a couple years or whatever. He's a perfect player to do that with, especially when you have the money right now. So that's just something that I think that teams need to take more advantage of. And the Orioles can very well do that too. A team that doesn't have a ton of money, the Cubs do obviously have the money for it. So once they start doing that and acting like it and just being smart about it, not just having the money and just being an idiot and flaunting it around, but actually being smart with it and extending your players too a little bit early and then going out and getting the free agents, that's where you can really hit some home runs. So I don't know why I just got down this topic here, but
I like it. No, I like it a lot. And Jack agrees with you. He says Nico extension a must. You have to extend him. And then Will Yumper follows up and says, outside of Hendricks, the last young Cubs extension were Rizzo and Castro back in the day. When they got them on really team friendly deals. Yeah. And that one paid off. The Rizzo deal was, I mean, even in the end of that contract, he was still below market value, right? So like, it's really something to keep an eye on. I absolutely agree. And just for reference too, of like people that are standings watching, the Milwaukee Brewers are a game out of the final wild card spot. So something interesting to keep in mind when like they're going against this Baltimore team. Like historically, we'd be like, it's the Orioles, and then you got to get ready for the Brewers. No. Like it's almost the other way around. Like you got to be ready for both, but like you got to get ready for the Orioles. And then like, okay, you're at least back at home then against Milwaukee. And I'll be there for 2 of the 3 games this weekend. I'm very excited about that. So that'll be cool and tough, I believe are the terms we're looking for. Joey, one final thing before we wrap up the show. Jeremiah with the hard-hitting questions today. Really hard hitter here.
Uh-oh.
He singled it at me, but I want yours as well because I'm not doing this alone. Do you have a best Boston accent to sound like an angry Red Sox fan with them looking at the AL East?
Oh boy, you're going first.
I'm going first?
You're going first.
Well, so when you're thinking about Boston, right? Like you think about accents, right? Like you're in the Midwest, right? We sound like Chicagoans, right? We say Chicago and we say, hot dogs and we say Italian beef. Like that's what we talk like, right? Well, at least to everybody else, at least. I think we sound normal, but as everybody does. But like when you go to Boston, you got to go with the hard A's a little bit. And you talk about Daddy Brewskis and like shit like that. So like that's kind of where I lean with my Boston accent is, they want to toss the T in the Boston Harbor and fuck the Yankees. You know what I mean? Like that's a Bostonian in Ron Luce terms. That's all
amazing.
I've got. That's what amazing. I've got. It's not good, but I think it's funny.
It's going to be better than mine. I don't know what the hell. I don't even know where I was going.
It's all in. It's like you got to talk like you can't fucking feel the roof of your mouth. You just got to talk like that.
I think now I'm changing my accent completely, but just get in the car. You get in the car, you park the car. Did you park the car, Ron?
Did you smart park the car? You remember that commercial? No. Oh, shit. Yeah, and even Jeremiah jumping in here. Park the car. Did you smart park the car? Did you park the car? I don't know. Did you smart park the car? Yo, that Super Bowl commercial was electric. That was a good one, and that one really took a stab at Bostonian accents, which I think was awesome. But A little.
Tom Brady, the GOAT. Did he park the car? Did he park the car though?
Oh shit, that is absolutely funny. Oh my goodness, that is good. Yeah, I think it was with Chris Jeremiah as he follows up with the comments. That was fun. No, hey, some hard hitting questions on the Cubs front, and then we get some good laughs in there too today. I feel like that's Cubs on Tap personified. Good laughs, but hard hitting baseball analysis from all of our group here. But the last 3 days, you've gotten Joey and I's ugly mugs. Sorry about that. But it is.
I got a haircut. We're good.
Yeah, hey, you look good today. My hair looks like a mess. There's a reason there's always a hat on. My hair's a nightmare right now. But Joey, before we do wrap up, I do want to remind everybody, Cubs on Tap is the official Cubs podcast of the On Tap Sports Network. You can check out all of our great work over at ontapsportsnet.com and at ontapsportsnet on social media. You can follow the pod-specific accounts for us here at Cubs on Tap. We are at Cubbies on Tap. That's Cubbies. That is Twitter and Instagram. I am at Loose on Tap on the Bluebird app. Joey is at Joey Knows Nothing. That ends in IN because that stands for win, baby. Juice is at Juice on Tap. Tyler's at Teddy Freddy 270, and then be sure to follow our other great contributors as well, and at Bulls Guy Rob and at Brandon M. Kane, who do a lot of good writing for us here on the Cubs side of the house. Bulls, Bears, Blackhawks, you know the drill. We got it all. And yes, Cubs fans, we all have friends that like the Southsiders. Send them over to our friends at Sox on Tap, who do a great job covering the boys at 35th and Shields. OnTapSportsNet.com, at OnTapSportsNet on social media, the OnTap Sports Network. Go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. A little programming update just so everybody kind of prepares for the weekend. Goodbye, Jeremiah. Thank you for joining us today, friend. We will not have any shows for this Brewers series. Apologies. A bunch of us are out of town. I'm in the city all weekend, as I mentioned. I'll be at 2 of the games, though, so we will have a lot of live content from the Cubs on Tap account. So that's why I encourage you, please follow us on Twitter. There'll be a lot of great on-site content, hopefully coming from there. But we will be back Monday ahead of the Cardinals series. We'll talk a little bit about the weekend that was, and then look ahead to the St. Louis series. So we will have a show tomorrow, Thursday show. There will be one. Friday, however, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there will not be shows unless something magically changes, between now and Sunday night, essentially. So it'll be Monday, though, that we'll be back with you guys for sure. So just bear with us there. I know Joey's going out of town. Juice just moved. Tyler's out of town. I think he's still in Florida. And then I will be in the city, taking in some Cub games sandwiched around a wedding. So that is my weekend that is coming up. But Joey, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Cubs win another series. Hopefully they can keep the winning ways going tomorrow against the Orioles. We'll be back after that one, as we mentioned. And then they're back. They're back at Wrigley for, carry my warrant, 8 games in 7 days, as there is a doubleheader against the Cardinals on Tuesday of next week.
Pat Foley, baby.
Pat Foley game. Yeah. That one's going to be sick. That's one almost that you don't want to be at the ballpark for. And I hate to say that because, I like being at the ballpark, but I'm going to be planted in my house listening to the first 3 innings on radio, watching the 4 through 6 on the television, and then listening to the last 3 again with Pat on the radio. So it's going to be electric. I can't wait. But as always, we appreciate you guys for listening. And Joey, what do you say? If we get out of here the only way we know how, it Cubs on Tap?
Let the garlic bread play.
Amen to that. And let's go Cubbies.